Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Jamonte Hickman. Many people are starting to use CBD products instead of prescription and over-the-counter drugs. Some believe CBD offers a natural alternative to drugs that relieve pain and other conditions like anxiety, inflammation, and depression. Last year, the FDA approved the first medical treatment containing hemp CBD. It's used to treat epilepsy. But even before this, people were using CBD in lotions, foods, serums, and oils. These products are becoming more popular and are starting to be found in drugstores and local storefronts. Both CVS and Walgreens have announced they will begin selling hemp-derived CBD products in stores nationwide. So far, few scientific studies exist, and many people are confused about the difference between CBD and medical marijuana and recreational cannabis, and some people say they have safety concerns.
Well, I don't know about oil form. I haven't followed the thing all that closely, but I think it's unwise to mess with your body that way on a regular basis. When they extract the intoxicating parts out of it and use it for medicine, I think it probably makes a lot of sense. But otherwise, I think people aren't aware of how much it can mess up their minds.
In my opinions is, it just depends on why you're taking it. But if you're abusing it, I'm against it. But if it's, medicinal, yeah, then it's okay.
So my knowledge about CBD oil is kind of limited. I know it has some association with marijuana, that's about it. But if I knew more about it, I would probably try to get into it.
On Point's Chris Farias has more on the story.
Thanks, Jamonte. And today with us we have Marissa Sanchez, which she is a consumer and also business owner. And also we have Nicole Lanni. She is the CEO and founder of Feeling Groovy Wellness and Cafe. Thank you for coming today. So I want to start with Nicole. What is CBD? I feel like we all have so many questions. Is it the same thing as THC? Is it something completely different? Can you just explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So CBD is actually one of the components in the cannabis sativa family of plants. So that could be cannabis, a cannabis CBD, or it could be a hemp CBD, depending on which plant you actually get it from. Most people are more familiar with the hemp side of things. We hear a lot about hemp these days, hemp CBD. So it's just one of those 80+ components that are in the plant. So in that plant you have CBD, THCA, CBN, CBG. There's so many different components in that plant, including omega-3s and 6s.
Wow.
Yeah.
And are people replacing their regular drugs to, CBD products?
Regular drugs as in
like prescribed
prescriptions?
Yeah, prescriptions.
So we see a lot of people at my center where they're taking medications, and often they wean themselves off of some of those medications. So we never go into anybody saying, don't take opioids, right? But we have a lot of people who are using this to actually take themselves off of opioid drugs or off of antidepressants, off of blood pressure medicine.
Okay. And then for you, Marissa, I know that you recently started your business and you're familiarizing yourself a lot more with CBD. So can you tell us, how did you first hear about CBD and how has it changed your life?
So I first heard about CBD when I was prescribed more antidepressants actually. And I started doing more research for something more natural or holistic that I could take because I didn't want to be on so many prescribed medications. I didn't like the way it made me feel. So I started doing some research, found some stuff online, but then actually I was introduced to Nicole through her workshops that she holds about CBD. And I got a lot of my information from her on how to use it, on what it's good for, and I started using it personally, I want to say about a year ago, and I started realizing the benefits of it, and then I just kept kind of telling everybody about it who would listen from there, all the benefits of CBD and how it can help improve your life and help you get off the dependency on drugs.
Okay. And Nicole, I was looking at your website and something that I read said, you talk about the life-changing benefits that a whole person approach to life, nutrition, movement, and self-care can bring. What does that mean to you? How has this whole business and you knowing about CBD has changed your life?
Oh my goodness, it's changed my life drastically. So both personally and professionally. So personally, I think my overall well-being is much better. Physically, I feel better. My skin is better. I think my relationships with people are better when you're not irritable, when you have things, as a business owner, I think a good thing is to stay calm most of the time. So it's improved my relationships with people as well, which is just one of the side benefits of the product, I believe. Professionally, I think it's really changed our community. So where my home base of the business is, we have city council members who are open to hearing about this. We have our police department that has come in. We have doctors that are coming to us to be educated. So we're really we're becoming more and more of a community base where people can get education. So it's pretty exciting that, people are reaching out to us.
And then you have a very unique story too. I know that you had an incident where, you almost lost your life. And can you also talk about that, how because of this whole movement and how it's changed your life drastically, how, if you didn't have any of this, where would you be right now?
I don't know where I'd be. I know where I am. I was pretty sick. I was sick back in 2002, and it kind of started my holistic movement. So I had mold growing in my lungs, and it grew and it grew, and it was the perfect environment to grow in, obviously. And I had, on my third surgery, I decided not to wake up. I went into a coma for about 4.5 months. So when I woke up, I actually had my medical doctor out here in Northridge, which is interesting, had told me I needed 3 things to live. So the first thing I needed was my medical doctors. The second thing I needed was whatever my faith was, whatever my belief system was, to magnify that by 10, and then to magnify it by 10 again. And then he said, you need some alternative wellness. You need some holistic medicine. We need to use some alternatives. So at that point, I had no idea what he meant, and he put me on this amazing path. It started out with yoga, hyperbaric chamber, changing in diet, drastic change in diet, really working with a nutritionist who knew the things that I needed, and it just changed my entire life. So after that point, here I am now. We have a wellness center that's 6,500 square feet. We have seen over 6,000 people in the last 18 months at the center.
That's amazing. Wow. And then for you, you mentioned that you used to take antidepressants.
Yes.
Are there any other drugs, prescriptions that you used to take that you no longer take because now you have, CBD products?
So I was taking antidepressant. It was just that one, but it went from 1 to 2 to 3 a day. Just kind of every time I talked to my doctor, it was just kind of like, try a little bit more, to the point where I was, a walking zombie. I wasn't feeling the way I should feel. I wasn't connecting with people. I wasn't sad all the time, but I also wasn't functioning the way I felt I could. And so over time, I started taking more CBD, just a little bit in the morning, a little bit in my juice, something like that, and then kind of going more herbal. So how she was saying, more holistic. So I've been using other herbs and tinctures, stuff like that, to kind of help improve my mood, improve my energy. And since then, I don't take any more Prozac. I'm not on it at all anymore. So, and it's just, I swear by it. There's nothing that I think could have stopped me from going down and down deeper into more medication, more prescription medication than something more natural. And it's just helped overall with my sleep, with my energy, with, like she said, connection to people. You have a lot more, even patience. So like more patience, more ability to connect, less frustration with yourself using CBD. So that was kind of it.
Okay, wow. And then just to clarify, we have hemp, the term hemp, we have CBD, THC, marijuana. Can you just explain really what is the difference? And also just explain a little bit about the difference between the federal laws and like California laws, state laws, really like what is going on?
Okay, so we have obviously cannabis CBD, hemp CBD. Cannabis is marijuana. That's a more politically correct term for it these days. So, and with Prop 64, so California voted in Prop 64, which made us regulate marijuana or cannabis, where it's now recreational and it's medicinal. So we have both sides of the coin, where Prop 215 was just the medicinal side of things. So now anyone over the age of 21 can go into a licensed dispensary and actually purchase a product. Hemp CBD is, so we have cannabis CBD and hemp CBD. So here's the secret. Hemp CBD has less than 0.3% THC, which is the psychoactive component that gets you high. and the best part about this is most people for medicinal purposes don't necessarily need THC. They really need the components that are actually in the hemp plant. So there are some people for medicinal purposes should use THC. People who have extreme chronic pain, people that have HIV often will use THC, people that have Crohn's disease, very painful disease. Those are the type of people who we see use more of a cannabis CBD. But with a hemp CBD, and as long as it's a full spectrum, which means it's not an isolate with just the CBD taken out, it's all those 80 plus compounds I was talking about. They synergetically work together and they cause what they call an entourage effect. So with all of those components together, there's one fabulous little component in there called CBN, and CBN is what helps with sleep. So a lot of people have insomnia, they don't sleep well throughout the night. If they're taking just a regular CBD, they don't get that extra component. If they're taking a full spectrum with hemp, hemp CBD, they'll get that CBN in it, and they actually get the benefits of sleep as well as all the other benefits that come with it.
Okay.
So, and federal regulations, of course, it's not federally legal. I believe we have 32 states now that are either recreational or medicinal, depending on the state. And we're hoping that the other 18 states hop on board with us, right? And it gets pushed into some federal regulation. So, but there is a lot of confusion with the FDA right now as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have something to add?
Oh, I was just gonna say with the FDA. I actually just heard yesterday. I don't know if we were gonna bring this up, that they're gonna have a hearing, the FDA
In April.
Yeah, since they aren't currently regulating it, with the people to see what their opinions are of using the marijuana and how, kind of to figure out even just how to go about regulating it, because they don't really know and they haven't really done their own research on how it can help people or help with alleviate certain symptoms of different diseases or conditions.
Right.
So yeah.
I think the biggest component is with the FDA, they're saying it's not a food supplement.
Yeah.
So, they've now pulled, there's so many products out there that you would see food with CBD in it. Matter of fact, Coca-Cola is getting ready to make a Coke CBD.
Wow.
Yeah. So we can't sell that in California right now. So they've pulled food off of our market here in California with CBD in it because of this. It's just spoken, and there's nothing in writing yet about this, but it's a spoken thing from this FDA saying, look, we don't know if this is a food supplement, so can we actually put this in food? And if so, how do we regulate that as well? So there's a lot of confusion with what's going on with the FDA versus what's going on with the DEA. The DEA just downregulated a drug called Epidiolex. Epidiolex is CBD with less than 0.01% THC in it. They're giving it to kids with epilepsy and Dravet syndrome. There's nothing different with that drug than buying a bottle of full spectrum hemp CBD.
Wow. And then this question's for both of you. You guys have both dealt with doctors telling you this, telling you that. How does one approach the doctor? How do you, ask, can I take this? Should I not take it? Or do the doctors actually know what to tell you guys?
From my experience, I got lucky. My doctor, she wanted me to, when I explained to her how I was looking for something more holistic, she put me on a 1-year plan. So she said, okay, so you're gonna take 3 for now, then in a couple months you'll take 2 a day, then 1 a day. We'll wean you off of it while you're finding your holistic way. So I asked her, about CBD after I had gone to one of her workshops, and she explained that it would be something helpful to me, but I have had people who ask me about it say they've talked to their doctors and their doctor just completely shuts them down and says, stick to what we're giving you. We know what we're doing. This is proven. We don't know what CBD can do for you if it's addictive. A lot of doctors kind of don't know either. So they'll discourage their patients. But I did get really lucky because she was willing to help me find a better way than stay on so much prescription drugs.
Okay.
So.
I think there's a lot of confusion in the medical world when you say CBD and we're using one generic term, right? They don't know if that means cannabis CBD or they don't know if that means hemp CBD. So, and they're really not educated. And I think that most doctors want the best for their patients. I don't think there's ill will there at all, but I think it's a lack of education. So we've been doing workshops for doctors with just groups of doctors because they don't, it's funny, they don't want to be in possibly with their patients, you know, because we look up to our doctors. We think that our doctors know everything, and I think we forget sometimes they're practicing medicine and that they're still learning as well. So I think once they start realizing that there's cannabis CBD, which has that THC, which can have some psychoactive, you know, properties, or if they're, you know, recommending a hemp CBD, they start looking at things a little bit differently because a lot of them are just uneducated. And I think a lot of them are open to education. I know we have doctors coming to us all the time, but you do get the ones, you know, I could tell you some crazy stories of the ones who are like, absolutely no.
Wow.
And they draw a line in the sand.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then once you get the green light, let's say that you know, they're all for it, how does one go and find what kind of product they should start using?
I think personally it's a case-by-case scenario. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all for CBD. It really depends on the symptoms you have. It really depends on what you're trying to treat. So if it's anxiety or depression, you know, you could go internally, you could take CBD oil, you can start that way. If it's muscle spasms, if it's pain, you know, there are topical options as well. And it really depends on each case. There's no one-size-fits-all. I always tell people, you know, if you're gonna start, give me a list of some of your symptoms and we can try, let's try, you know, the topical for your back spasms or whatever and see how that goes. But you really can't tell someone exactly how to use CBD to start out. They kind of have to feel it out themselves, at least in my experience.
Okay, and then when you mentioned they kind of have to feel it out, but do they Google this? I mean, how do they start with their search?
That's scary.
Yeah.
Because there's so much out there and you don't know what you're getting. And so I would recommend for people when they're looking for a product, the first thing is try to find a US-based product. So we have a lot of hemp that's being resourced out of India and out of China. And not that the countries, they're just not regulated at all, and we don't know what we're getting. We're in the few states that are actually allowed to grow hemp right now, so that's an interesting thing as well. We only had 3 states that were allowed to grow hemp up until December, and now to even for those states to be able to grow hemp since the Farm Bill's been signed on December 18th, now we have states that have to apply and they have to meet certain criteria with their agriculture departments. So Oregon, you're allowed to grow hemp now. California, they're just starting to allow it. And I believe Utah is going to be the next state. So as we're starting to see this come up, so when you're Googling it, the first thing you want to see is, do they have third-party testing? That's something that's really important because there are labs that will tell you exactly what's in your product. You don't necessarily want to be taking something with a lot of Roundup or pesticides in it if you're using this, especially for medicinal purposes, right? So I think the first thing is to look for companies that have pure hemp or pure cannabis. In this case, let's talk hemp. Pure hemp, you agree?
Yes.
And then also not with a lot of fillers. You see a lot of people, and it's scary out there, they'll see something for like half the price and they think that they're getting the same quality, and they're not. So you see things with coconut oil, and I'm talking tinctures, like oils that you take under your tongue, peppermint oil, MCT oil, water. If the first ingredient is water, it's something you probably want to stay away from because you're not getting the medicinal properties of the plant. So there are some guidelines you can follow, but again, it's a personal experience, and some people will look over price over quantity, but if you're talking about health reasons, you're better off spending a little bit more and getting an actual product than something that's filled with fillers.
Yeah, and to add to that, just something, if you really have no idea about CBD at all, a good rule of thumb for me when I look on websites, if they have a lot of different flavor options, if they have pages and pages of options of CBD oil, it's probably not a site you want to buy from. There shouldn't be, I mean, there can be flavor, but you are not going to get the medicinal use of it. So if there's a lot of flavor options, if they're always /50% off, those are the sites that you kind of want to be wary of. They're more for profit than for the medicinal use.
Okay.
And I learned that the hard way. I spent hundreds of dollars on different flavors, fun stuff, and it never worked for me until I just decided to get pure hemp CBD oil and start from there. But that's always a good rule of thumb too, because there are so many sites when you look up CBD to buy online.
There's another rule of thumb that goes with that. So look for something that's 1,000 milligrams or more per 30 milliliter bottle. So we see the best results when you start looking at studies, and most of the studies have been done in Israel. So our country hasn't had a lot of studies done yet. Israel has done the most extensive research on both cannabis and hemp. So when you start looking at the medicinal purposes, 1,000 milligrams or more per bottle is optimal. You'll see 1,500, 3,000. It's rare. So you see a lot of websites that will have 250, 500, 750. There's MLMs now that are coming into CBD. That scares me a little bit because I'm seeing what they're putting out. Not that the companies are bad, but it's not necessarily a super high quality. And if you're taking this for health reasons, I think we want the best quality that you can get for a reasonable amount of money. So 1,000 milligrams or more, not a lot of fillers, pure hemp is great. And that's no flavors, and that's when we see the most medicinal benefits.
And would you say that you would want the person to kind of start slow and then, they eventually learn what they really need, the kind of dose, or how does one know what dose to take?
I have a guideline I use. Do you have a guideline?
I just always start with 1 or 2 drops.
Okay.
Slowly in the evening, because you don't know if it's going to make you a little bit sleepier than normal. From my experience, I didn't get super sleepy. It helped improve my sleep, but a light didn't switch and I wasn't sleepy right away. My aunt, it made her sleepy right away. So it's very case by case, but I just recommend a couple drops to start and in the evening.
What about you, Nicole?
I think every person should take 25 milligrams a day. Now they can break that up into 2 dosages, morning and evening, but that's when we're seeing our bodies kind of go back into homeostasis. We have CB1 and CB2 receptors that go throughout our whole body. So most people, especially in America, have inflammation, acne, depression, anxiety, arthritis. Yeah, it all goes with inflammation. So to get that inflammation down, we're seeing the best results of 25 milligrams or more a day. You can't overdose on it. So, maybe half of that in the morning, half in the evening, and we see a lot of improvement at that case.
Okay. And we're talking about people consuming this. So what's the age group? And is it more men, more women? Is this safe for children?
It is.
Yeah, I give it to my son in gummy form to help him sleep at night. It's perfectly safe. Then you can give it to your pets too. Yeah.
And what about the age group?
So the World Health Organization back in October of 2018 declared that CBD is safe for all children ages 1 to adults, including pets. So any mammals that have an endocannabinoid system within their body can take CBD and you're not going to have any exposure. Now, if you're adding THC to that, you definitely don't want to give your child anything with THC in it if they're under the age of 18, unless a doctor has prescribed that.
And now, can CBD become addictive? Can you overdose? Can you overabuse it?
CBD can actually help people get off of other addictive substances. It's been, I want to say his name is Dr. Jeff Chan. I was reading a few of his articles too when I was doing my research for CBD, and he said that it helps a lot with the opioid epidemic. People who are going through addiction or who do have a lot of dependency, CBD is used as a route to break away from addiction. So it doesn't have that addictive quality like an opioid would.
Okay. And now, is it affordable?
I say I can afford it, so
I think that some people will come into our center, I'll give you an example, and they'll say, oh my goodness, this is high. But then we talk about what are they paying for prescriptions, how many days off of work do they miss? And when you start really balancing it out, it really is less than a cup of coffee that you'd buy a drive-through, truthfully, a day. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that for your health benefits and you have so many less illnesses, when you call in sick, you're actually taking a mental health day and not necessarily a sick day, because you need a day off or you want a day off. Yeah. So I think we're just seeing so much improvement in that area that I think the cost can be very effective for you.
Yes,
okay.
I agree.
And then let's clarify it. CBD, there's hemp, and then there's cannabis. Which one's the one that gets you high? We said it's the cannabis, correct?
It can, depending on how much THC is actually in it. It comes in different ratios. So you'll see a 1 to, and you need to buy that in a dispensary or through a delivery driver. So you'll see like a 1-to-1 ratio, 3-to-1 ratio, 20-to-1 ratio. So it depends on how much is in there, if you're going to feel any of those psychoactive components of it. But most of it is pretty, even if you go into a dispensary, is pretty low dose. And again, the key for it to be hemp CBD is it needs to be 0.3% or less THC, and you'll have no psychoactive issues. Yeah.
Okay, and then we mentioned a little bit about the FDA and really how involved they are in all of this. Where are they failing, or I mean, are they doing their job?
So from what I know, the only problem they do have with the companies that do sell CBD is if the CBDs make claims to cure something. Because the FDA hasn't done the testing on it, they're just kind of covering their bases before they've even done the testing, saying you can't put a product out there that hasn't been regulated by us yet, claiming to cure something. So we don't say it cures anything. It helps a lot. It helps alleviate the symptoms, but yeah.
I think that there's more to the FDA than that at this point. So I think Big Pharma has been a big part of, an epidemic going on in our country, truthfully. So there is this drug that came out in October called Epidiolex. It is 0.01% THC, so technically that is hemp. With our own DEA schedule, that is hemp. And there's a lot of speculation in the legal community. We work with cannabis attorneys as well. And so there's a lot of speculation of why that drug came out in October. The Farm Bill was signed in December, and now the FDA has hopped into this after the fact. So they are going to try to say, and this is what all the attorneys are expecting throughout the country, is that they're going to go back and say, you know what? You can't sell a drug. We just made this a Schedule 5 drug, where cannabis and hemp were a Schedule 1 drug for over 70 years. So this is a big part of what's going to happen when they start having these hearings at the end of April, going, are they going to say this is a drug? And is this now going to become part of Big Pharma, where people who have been using this for the last few years now in our country and are getting medicinal benefits, are they going to try to turn that into a prescription where people like us who are actually out there working with the clients and people aren't going to be able to sell it to the public?
Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm sure everyone learned so much, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
having
having
us.
Yep.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on social media at CSUN On Point. You can hear us at KCSN 88.5 FM on Sunday mornings at 5:30. You can watch us on Santa Clarita Valley Television on Sundays at 5:30 and on LA 36 at 8 Thursday evenings. For all of us here at On Point, I'm Jamonte Hickman.